Hello, everybody, and welcome into the 72nd edition of Texas Longhorns Live off a loss from down in Gainesville to the Florida Gators in the swamp. Now it is Red River rivalry, Red River showdown, Red River shootout, whatever the heck you want to call it. I know Sark dropped in the All-State Red River, which was crazy to me that you're dropping the sponsor before it, but he probably got paid to do that. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Gerald, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I'm worried that my son's flag football team got its first win on the first Texas conference loss, so I'm hoping that's not a trend. As the coach, I'm torn on that one. But other than that, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. This is going to be bad topic to start out with, but let's do it. Florida recap, because Texas loses 29-21 to Florida, a game in which Florida came in 1-3, but they've been competitive in almost every game other than Miami. Florida did pull away at the end. We knew going into the game, I said it's going to be one of the two best defensive lines we go against in the regular season. That turned out to be the case because they ate our lunch up front. Gerald, where do you want to start out with this one?
Yeah, it's really hard to pick one spot to start, but I think it has to be the trenches on both sides of the ball, right? You mentioned, Florida really getting everything it wanted on the in the run game, right? I think there were upwards of almost 3.2 line yards per rush in that game or something dumb like that, like absolutely wild. And so we thought the strength of this Texas defense, and I said it, like I thought the strength of this Texas defense was going to be the interior line, and we had seen it look really, really good in the last several weeks. And so I wonder if that's a function of just who they've been playing, but they look solid against Ohio State, and Ohio State may be one of the two good teams this year. So I'm not sure what happened with that. And you even saw that bear itself out in Pete Kwiatkowski's kind of schematic choices. You saw him almost put that line on an island and say, hey, we're going to try to force DJ Lagway to be a quarterback in this one based on the way we play the secondary. And he expected that front to really be able to hold up, and it just didn't. And so that is a struggle. And then you look on the other side of the ball, and the Texas offensive line was just abysmal, right? I got the stats pulled up here. Texas managed, 6 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hurries, stuffed on 42% of their rushes, 2.2 line yards per carry. So just absolute dominance from that that Florida defensive front. So that is the story of the game for me. Texas couldn't run the ball. Arch had to do everything because of that. The lines looked shaky on both sides. The defensive line picked itself up later in the game, but it was honestly a little too late because they were just so far down.
Yeah, that definitely stood out to me. It was a first half thing. They did get better in the second half. So I'm willing to say, hey, one bad performance in basically 2.5, 3 years. That's fine. Yeah. I'm not going to concentrate on that. I'm going to concentrate on the offensive line because it's something that's never lived up to the hype. Even last year when we had the talent, it was not as good as it's supposed to be. This year, reworking it, and obviously it's not. I mean, I'll add another stat to you. 60% pressure rate from Florida with a 4-man front versus 5 guys. It's 4-on-5, and they're getting pressure 60% of the time. That is insane to me, guys. Awful. Insane. Arch Manning, I believe, was under pressure on 56% of his dropbacks. Yeah, 35 pressures, most of the Sark era, 6 sacks, which could have been 10 plus if he doesn't run out of a couple of them. I mean, it's just overall a really, really bad performance from this offensive line, no matter the way you slice it. 11 carries for 15 yards rushing. They did nothing well in this game, guys. There's nothing I can point to and say, hey, at least we have this. There isn't that. Brooks Austin, the Film Network guy, he was tweeting out, man, how bad is Arch Manning? Da-da-da. Then he watched the film. He deleted all those tweets, and the video, he said, there was nothing there. This offensive line is bad, and he talked about how, we recruit big humans, but we don't recruit big athletic humans. No offense to our left guard Conestro, he cannot move side to side at all. That shuffle drill they teach in basketball, guys, he can't do that. And you kind of have to do that a little bit in this type of offense, especially because it limits it in almost every way. Like when we're throwing screens, guess what? He's not quick enough to get out there and block. When you're going one-on-one in the trenches, a quick little swim move, and the guy's past him in literally half a second. Arch Manning's not even to the top of his drop back, and people are there. There's nothing you can do if that's what it's going to be like. There's no quarterback in the country that's going to be successful with that. There's no NFL quarterback that's ever going to be successful with that. I'm a Broncos fan. I watched 2015 AFC Championship game where Tom Brady is getting destroyed by that defense, and he was almost able to come back, but guess what? He wasn't. You're never going to be able to win football games that way. That's the game is won in the trenches. And are there some other things about this team I don't like? Yeah, but I've seen teams with average wide receivers and average running backs win football games. I've never seen a team with a bad offensive line win football games consistently. You might be able to luck into one. You aren't going to do it consistently, especially versus a front like Florida's.
Yeah, and I will say that Archer's blameless in this. There were some spots where he held onto the
100.
ball a few times. Like I watched them. I would rewatch the game, and especially there were a couple of spots where Texas probably had a touchdown, if not an explosive play. And he kind of held on to the ball for too long, or was waiting for somebody to make an extra break or be even more open. So, like, I'm not saying Archer's perfect, but like those are the things you expect even from a generational kind of quarterback when they're first getting started. But the fact of the matter is, like, he was not able to get comfortable and get into the flow of the game. And the one sequence when he did, he was 7 of 10 for like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? When they looked good, when they were moving, like when he was able to get in rhythm, he looked like the Arch Manning we expected. And so like that to me is, and I put it out there on social media, like this game was a referendum on Kyle Flood, period, end of sentence. Like whether it's his refusal to go in the portal, whether it's missed evaluations, whether it's not wanting to pay specific guys. I don't know what the issue is, but like we've seen how good this offense can be with a decent offensive line. So people were talking about Texas's running back issues, and I'm like, guys, Trey Wisner rushed for 1,000 yards last year with a decent offensive line, right? Like Trey Wisner, the running backs, they're not what Texas should have, but Texas had success with these guys when the offensive line was solid, right? And that's the issue for me. Is like you cannot do anything as an offense if your offensive line is getting beat off the ball every down. When you're watching your 5-star guard watch his man make the play multiple times in a game, when you're watching those types of things happen, it's not going to go well. And when push comes to shove, like that's on Kyle Flood, that's on Steve Sarkisian. Like that is an issue that if you think, I don't know how they looked at what they had and did not go into the portal, at least for 1 or 2 guys, right? And again, I know that the budgets are a thing, right? And they needed to add a ton of talent on the interior of the defensive line, but like it's just wild to me that a place like Texas, with the pockets that Texas has, couldn't spare a couple of ducats for a guy who's got some proven track record in the interior offensive line. And I would be shocked if they go into next year with the same group. And if they do, I will be very frustrated because we have not seen this group be successful. We've not seen this group thrive in the way that we thought they would. It sucks. There's no two ways around. Like this is not a good offensive line, and it's hampering the entire offensive function.
No, 100%. And that's the thing too. I agree. I think I've said that. I'm not Trey Wisner's a average, maybe a little bit above average running back. So you could have gone in the portal and got someone better. But the thing is, by this offensive line, it's okay. Let's say instead of 11 carries for 15 yards, we would have had 11 carries for 23 yards. Like it doesn't make that much. It's big of a difference with the offensive line we have. And I mean, and it's just one of those things I just don't understand. Like DJ Campbell, you pointed out, there's that tunnel screen middle where everyone else is blocking and he's looking around for someone to block. His guy's right behind him and then destroys Jack Endries on the play and blows it up. And that play could probably go 15, 20 yards. There's really no one else around. It was well set up. And that's the thing with DJ Campbell. Am I saying he's bad? No, he's probably the best offensive lineman on the team. He's playing like the best offensive lineman on the team, but he hasn't lived up to the expectations that were brought before him. And
he was higher ranked than Kelvin Banks.
Exactly. When someone asks him, I bet he's like, yeah, I've been kind of a disappointment. I guarantee he thinks that of himself. And I made the comment because, again, Brooks Lawson made the comment of, hey, DJ Campbell probably feels bad because he's the best on this offensive line. I said, well, he's been called for a holding penalty every game. And Nino's Corner, who does a good job on YouTube, I respect Nick, but he says, let me tell you in on a little streak. There's holding on every play in football, just a matter if the ref wants to call it. Then why is DJ Campbell always the one getting called for it? Last year, he was the one getting called for it. This year, he's either number 1 or number 2 in holds on the team. So no, it's not just a holding on every play. It is DJ Campbell. Everyone has some responsibility to burden on this team because there's no one playing good football on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, there is holding on every play, which means that DJ Campbell getting flagged for holding as frequently as he does means that he's not holding correctly, right? I played offensive line at a not very good level, and even I know, like, you're getting inside, you're grabbing at kind of the insides of the shoulder pads, right? Like, there's a way to hold as an offensive lineman that's not going to get called because that's just part of the game, right? It's like saying kind of shrugging that off for DJ Campbell, because again, if there is holding on every play, then why is DJ Campbell the only guy getting those flags? And I'm with you on Rod. Like that guy's a guy that they kind of poured out some money for. They definitely prioritized, and they let him have his little, dramatic moment in National Signing Day. Like it just hasn't really panned out for it. And so that to me is really the biggest issue. And we'll talk about kind of coaches to blame in just a minute. But like for me, Texas has not lived up to what it should be in the offensive line room. And when you think about, I think about that national championship team back in 2005. I was there. That was a team that was built around the trenches, elite offensive linemen, elite defensive linemen, and that allowed the generational skill talent they had to win a national championship, right? The offensive line wasn't as good in 2008 and 2009, but they still had NFL guys on those units, right? The defensive line was solid in those years, right? But that's how you win. When you think about how you win football games, you got to be good in the trenches. You have to be able to win at the point of attack, because no matter how much talent you have at quarterback, if he's got a half a second to throw, he's got a second and a half to throw it, he's not going to be able to make the right reads.
No, 100%. So we're going to move on from the Florida recap, and we'll just jump right into this. So what coach on Texas deserves the most blame? So, guys, I wrote a couple names down because I didn't really pay attention to the portal that much. I saw a couple guys jump in from the offensive line group. Obviously, I knew everyone else, but there was a couple that I remembered. I'm like, why didn't Texas go after? So I looked them up now. Pat Coogan is one. Pat Coogan is a guy that was on the national championship team of Notre Dame and, played a little bit of guard, a little bit of center. This guy's got a 79 Pro Football Focus grade for Indiana. You don't think we could use that? That means you're 65 is average for Pro Football Focus. So that's like a good football player we're talking about. Like he would be probably the best lineman we have at Texas right now. And when he jumped in, I said, why are we not getting him? Emmanuel Pregnon transferred to Oregon, had an 87.5 Pro Football Focus grade versus Penn State. And we know what their defensive linemen are like. So there were guys there, and we actually had Emmanuel Pregnon on campus, and we chose not to go after him. I just don't understand how you don't bring one of them in, because then if you bring one and he's like, oh, this guy's really good, then at least that solidifies that, because right now the left guard and center are the two weakest spots by far on the offensive line, in my opinion. So it has not been good. So I agree with you, Gerald. I blame Kyle Flood the most, but I also have to, put blame at Steve Sarkisian, because I'm sure he had the final say on all of this. And he was like, you know what? I'll just ride with my guy. I trust what he trusts. And it's failed completely. And it's one of those things, it's really hard to hide an offensive line, a bad offensive line. There's some things we can do, and we'll talk about that later. But it makes it a lot more difficult, especially with what Sark wants to do offensively.
Yeah, and I think about there's a guy who is working on his probably third All ACC award right now that used to wear burnt orange. Logan Parr is the best pass blocking offensive guard in the country, right? And that's a guy that Texas ran off for younger guys, right? He's got, I think it was first team, his first year, third team last year because of injuries, and he's the top rated pass blocking blocker at left guard in the country, right? So that just makes it even more apparent that there's something off in the water when it comes to offensive line recruiting and offensive line management, because if you run off a guy like that for other players, it's interesting to me to see why you did not choose to pay that guy, why you did. And again, now we're sitting here, Texas is starting a freshman left tackle at left guard because it's just so stinking bad. Having to play Nick Brooks in this game in an emergency capacity should be a black eye for Kyle Flood. He should not be able to show his face at home because of that. That is just inexcusable. Texas should not be in that situation where you have to play a guy like Nick Brooks, who's a freshman, right? He's a freshman. He's not even just a freshman. He's a developmental freshman. That's playing out of position. So it's just wild to me that's the situation that Texas is in. And I think you're right on Sark. Sark, obviously, everything rises and falls with the leadership, right? When the CEO is the one that gets the blame or should get the blame in a lot of these situations. So Steve Sarkisian, being the offensive guy he is, needs to step that up. I also want to point out, I said this on Saturday after the game, Jeff Banks is another guy who I think has not the most blame, but he's somebody that needs to be in the conversation here. I think Jeff Banks has not lived up to what I expected him to be as far as special teams and tight ends. And in the era of NIL and the current situation that recruiting is in, like, do you need a recruiter like Jeff Banks hidden in those positions, right? Where you used to kind of hide your elite recruiters at running back coach, at special teams coordinator, or tight ends, right? That's where you used to kind of stash your guy. And Jeff Banks turned himself into a highly sought after, special teams coordinator. But there were a couple of spots on Saturday where Jack Bomeister punted a dime that really would have created momentum for the defense. That twice Texas could have pinned the Florida offense at the 1 yard line, and they were unable to down the ball, right? Ryan Niblett watched the ball bounce in front of his face, go into the end zone and turn into a touchback, right? Those are the things, those like little inches, those margins in the game that are things that you have to pay attention to. So like I'm frustrated with that unit as well. Plus the tight ends, like where are the Jack Endries has been a non-factor in most games. Jordan Washington has been a non-factor all year. The tight end room is a blank slate at best and a detriment at worst.
No, 100%. And that's the thing, too. Like, thinking about Jeff Banks, I brought up Jack Bomeister, what she's doing his job, was brought in from Utah. Like, no offense to Jeff Banks. He's done probably very little, having to do very little coaching with him because the guy was an all-American Big 12 guy at Utah. Like, he's a really good punter. So I doubt he's had to do much work. Ryan Sanborn, same thing. Really good punter at Stanford that we brought in. So how much work did he have to do with him? Bert Auburn was terrible, and he didn't fix anything about him. We knew when it was on the outer hash, he was going to miss every kick. So why don't you put it on the inner hash and help him out a little bit? I don't understand. So yeah, he's definitely on the hot seat for me because again, Jadavian Sanders was here before he got here. Gunnar Helm was here before he got here. Did he obviously help those guys out? I'm sure he has. But unless one of these guys turns out like Nick Townsend, if he doesn't turn out to be a complete stud, Jeff Banks has to go for him. He's getting paid way too much money for him to be giving the return that he is. Kyle Flood, I completely agree, but the buck has to start with Steve Sarkisian. He 100% signs off on everything. And another thing we didn't talk about in the Florida recap, but also is a big thing that I saw, Sark obviously wants the deep ball to be a factor. I completely understand that. But with the offensive line you have, you cannot force the ball down the field because you don't have 4 to 5 seconds and you don't have the time for these long developing plays. The one where Parker Livingston gets blown up, and it could have been a better pass. It wasn't a terrible pass. It did hit him in both the hands. He should have caught the first time. But that play took 4 seconds. We're lucky that didn't end up with another sack too because you saw the little, it's like a mesh concept turn into a wheel. He had to stop for a second to sell it and then run up the sideline. That was like the first long developing play. It might have been the only one where it's like, oh, he actually had time to throw that football. And the average depth of target with the skill that we have is the highest of the Sark era. So we're running the longest routes down the field with the worst offensive line of the Sark era. It makes no sense. If Steve Sarkisian does not understand what he has at this point, guys, it could get super ugly if he just keeps banging his head in the wall and saying, no, we're going to force the ball deep. We're going to do this. There are some things he's going to absolutely have to change. I know he doesn't want to change it, but if you want to get the most out of this football team, you're going to have to go against some of your philosophies here, Steve. You're just going to have to do it.
I'm with you there.
Go ahead.
I'm with you because I think, and we talked about Arch holding on to the ball a couple of times. Those were those long developing plays where he had a guy and he double clutched it or he held it for an extra second. And I think there are moments where Arch flashes that confidence, but I don't think he and I said it on Saturday as a joke, but it's like, it's hard to throw a deep ball when you got 10 other guys on your back, like offensively. Like, it's hard to find an open man. There were a couple of spots where Art should have let the ball fly, and he didn't, and it cost Texas. But, like, some of that is just like he's got to worry about hands in his face and the pocket collapsing because the guards can't hold up. Like, he's got too much stuff going on. So I'm with you there. It is inexcusable for the Texas offense to be this bad.
And if you're going to do that, then you need to have an immediate hot read that he knows right away. And we don't have that either. Like, he's not giving him an immediate answer underneath a lot of these deep routes. It's all deep routes. And it's like, okay, what do you want him to do here? He's either going to take a sack run or force an interception a lot of times or force a big play. And you can't win football games like that. Like, I understand this offensive line's great. I'm completely on board with the style of offense you're trying to run because guys were open down the field. And Arch Manning's good at throwing the deep ball. But guess what? It all starts with, can you protect long enough for that stuff to be able to happen? And the answer is unequivocally, no, you cannot do that. It's not even a question about it, guys. Like, you can't do it. And again, I would have loved to know in the offseason who it was. I don't know. Maybe Kyle Flood. Maybe he was like, no, we're good. We don't need any offensive line. But if he had any doubt, if he's like, man, I don't know. I think we can, but we can't, then that's on Sark. Like, as soon as he heard the doubt, he's like, okay, we're going in the portal. At the University of Texas, with the budget they have, there should be no doubts on the roster. You should know for a fact. Now, does it all have to be great? That's not what I'm saying. But it has to be at least average. And there are two spots on the offensive line that are significantly below average. And that's unacceptable, especially when you've invested the time and money that you have into Arch Manning. You've invested the time and money you have into Ryan Wingo. You've invested the time and money now with Jack Endries. Like, Jack Endries probably wasn't cheap coming over from Cal. He was one of the 2 to 3 best returning tight ends. And we're just completely wasting all of these guys.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think part of what we have to do, and I think there's got to be a reckoning there. It's like, is Texas missing on it? Because we're coming out of an era where the offensive line coach was just kind of lazy. And that's something to be like I don't think Kyle Flood is lazy. He's never been accused of that. But like when Texas shows up into the season, they've got 2 offensive linemen that were top 400 recruits, and then the rest of them were somewhere in the range of like 350 and 400. Like, that's not what the University of Texas should be trotting out there. And I'm not saying that you can't take developmental guys that you really like their tools, but I am saying like Texas should be able to field elite players at every position. And the simple fact of the matter is, like, Sark is a smart enough offensive coach. Kyle Flood has forgotten more about coaching offensive linemen than I will ever know. And like, they should know that like this is a game that starts in the trenches. And I think Corey brings up a good point in the chat. I'm also like, PK called a solid scheme, but they need to figure out how to get these edges loose, right? Texas came away no sacks in this game, 0 sacks in the game on Saturday. There was a point in the game where the only reason I knew Colin Simmons existed was because he got blown up and missed a tackle, right? That's the only reason. And then he finally had those 2 back-to-back plays on like 2nd and 3rd down where he like made the drive. But like early in the game, that's the only reason why I knew that Colin Simmons existed, is because he got blown up on a play and missed a tackle, right? It's like, that is inexcusable because Texas has Colin Simmons is probably going to be a top 15 pick just based on his measurables and his athletic frame, right? Ethan Burke is going to be a guy who's probably going to get drafted. Colton Vasek is a guy who's going to get drafted. You can't move Trey Moore out of the edge position and then have this production like stagnate. Like, those things are things that the defensive staff has made choices on. And so that to me is inexcusable because, again, Texas has elite talent at some of these spots and it's not getting it done. And then when they don't have elite talent, like, what is the excuse for not going out and getting that level of talent?
No, I 100% agree. PK obviously does deserve some blame, but he's low down the totem pole. If you're naming those 4 guys, like, it's these 3 in a bunch, and then he's down here because he's been super consistent. Oh, yeah. Like, this is the first game and even first couple games of his career since, the first year or 2 where I've been like, he's been lights out. I can't really say anything about him. And I do think it would change a little bit if Manny Muhammad's in the game, because I think you have that corner out there that you trust, so you might be able to, have some blitzes. But let's be honest here. Our corners were getting toasted one-on-one. If you bring blitzes, Dallas Wilson's eating even more, and I don't want that. Vernell Brown can also provide some problems. And then if you blitz and they do a run and you don't get Jaden Ball on the ground, that's an issue as well.
Sorry about you.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I understand why he didn't. I think he was just trying to be, keep us in the game as long as possible, and I thought he did a good job in the second half. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around here. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I really do think in the offseason you're going to see a heavy transfer portal class. I would be shocked if they don't take 2 to 3 offensive linemen. I would be shocked if they don't take a wide receiver or 2. I would be shocked if they don't take a running back, because I don't think Sark is going to ever allow this to happen again. Because honestly, if it happens again, especially if it's back-to-back years with a Manning, I mean, that's going to destroy the legacy here as he has at Texas, and probably destroy some dreams of him coaching in the NFL. So, for me, I would put the blame on Sark, number 1, Kyle Flood 2, Jeff Banks 3. They're all in the same basketball mode. It's like 1A, B, 1B, 1C for me.
Yeah. And I think Sark has not been shy about his, like, when the roster is not what he needs it to be, they'll go out and flip it. You saw that between year 1 and year 2. Like, they were like, hey, this is going to look completely different. And I think they flipped like 30 or so guys in the roster. So like Sark has not been afraid to do that. I think part of the reason why he felt comfortable doing that is because some of those guys weren't his guys. Those were Tom Herman guys. But ultimately, like, if they're not getting it done, like, I would hope that Steve Sarkisian, based on what we've seen from him, is not going to stand pat on this because he can't.
No, 100%. That does it for that. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Corey, I'll jump into your comments. Some of the issues that we have today were around 3 years ago, 100%. When we move on to the season outlook, I'll give you some stats here that are just they've been going on way too long. Nothing has changed about our program other than the NIL has brought overall better class of athletes. I agree with that to some extent. Some things have changed. I mean, I do agree the culture is better. There's more fight in this team than teams of Texas past. But some of the discipline issues, and we'll just get into that, the season outlook, rest of the season outlook for Texas. Like, I'm going to read some stats here. So I already read the stat about highest depth of target. That's got to change. We got to bring that down. We got to run actually more of the Quinn Ewers offense with Arch Manning. I know you thought you wanted the deep ball because he has a great deep ball, but again, it's all about the offensive line. You can't throw deep. Texas has faced more third and nines than third and fours this year. Think about that. More third and nine pluses than third and four. You're not winning with that, guys. The average at Florida was third and 11. Third and 11. You're losing yards on the other two downs. That you're supposed to be an offensive genius, and you're losing yards on first and second down. Big issue. Texas, 108th in fourth down conversion rate, 127th in penalty yards, 127. Guys, there's 136 teams in the country. That means there's 9 teams or 8 teams worse than Texas in the country penalty yards. Penalties per game, 131st. There are 4 or 5 teams that have more penalties per game than Texas. 104th red zone efficiency. That has not been fixed at all. That's one of those things where we talked about, do we need an offense coordinator? I'm all in on that now. I just haven't seen enough progress. I've seen no progress actually on red zone, third down, penalties. I think there's way too much on Steve Sarkisian's plate, especially in the game today. I think he's got to give those play calling up. And then we're 116th in third down conversion rate. Guys, this is unacceptable if you're supposed to be one of the 2 to 3 best play callers in the country with the top. I think, listen, do I think it's one of the 4 best rosters like the team talent composite says? No, but it's one of the 10. And this is just unacceptable. All those stats I said are unacceptable.
Yeah, and you mentioned that third and 11, the average distance to go on third downs, it was 11.1 yards. I think this would, if the season ended today, this would be the worst third down team in Steve Sarkisian's era at Texas. I think by about 5-ish percentage points. But part of the third down issue is the penalty issue that you mentioned. Texas had a 3rd and 22 because the same player had back-to-back false, or Texas had back-to-back false starts on a 3rd and 12 that went to a 3rd and 17 that went to a 3rd and 22. Like, that kind of stuff is inexcusable. Having those types of procedural penalties. And I'll say this, like, this has been a feature of Kyle Flood's era at Texas with some of these false starts and some of these. Like, I'm okay with offensive linemen getting penalized for aggression type penalties, right? Where you're getting called for a hold because you absolutely mauled the guy. Like, it happens sometimes, right? But like, part of the issue, and Sark talked about it in his Monday presser, that like Florida was doing some stemming that was causing guys to be jittery. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. It's not a secret. Georgia did the same thing to them last year at home, and it caused an issue. So like, what is happening that we're not correcting these things? Like, if we know why it's happening, because it happened again against Georgia last year, and it's part of the reason why the offensive line sucked butt against Georgia in that game. Like, if we know that's an issue, then why are we not correcting it? What is the issue there? The third downs, inexcusable for me. And part of it is, again, because Texas is getting super penalized. They had multiple, I think they had 3 penalties on third down that put them past a third down. They didn't have a 3rd and short. They had 1 3rd and short in the first half, and they converted it, right? They didn't have another 3rd and short until 5 minutes left in the third quarter. And they got a penalty on that. Like, I don't know, like, that's their last 4 third downs of the game were 3rd and 17, 3rd and 22, 3rd and 27, 3rd and 12.
That's wild.
Ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, ridiculous.
It's one of those things where literally this has been going on the past 3 years consistently, that we've been bad in the red zone and penalties. Like, guys, there's a real shot if we were just really good at one of those things, that not committing penalties, or really good in the red zone, that we could be back-to-back national champions. Like, that's a real possibility that we stopped ourselves from. We definitely beat Washington if we're better at one of those things. And last year, I think we probably go to overtime versus Ohio State. I don't know if we win, but we go to overtime. So it's just one of those things. We have to get out of our own way. I think you do have to call or get a play caller because, again, a no national championship team has won where their head coach is a play caller since Jimbo Fisher. One, that was a different time. Two, like you said, Gerald, at one point when we had this discussion, Jameis Winston. So you had a
Generational
Heisman Trophy.
player.
Yeah, a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. And guess what? That was a dogfight in the national championship game. They had to come back from 14 down. So there's too much on someone's plate right now. I don't think you can be like either a defensive coordinator and be a good head coach or an offensive coordinator and be a good head coach. It's just the way things are now. You can't do it. So I think he has to hire someone. Number two, again, you have to stop. I know what your philosophy is, but there's a difference between pride and do you want to win football games? You're going to have to check that pride shit at the door because if you don't, this is 7-5, 6-6 team. That's what it's going to be if he doesn't. This team, if he does, which I think he should do, is get Arch Manning out of the pocket. Then you don't have to worry about the pocket collapsing. Max protect the hell. Like I'm talking 80 to 90% of the dropbacks you do, max protect. It is what it is. It's going to limit you, but I'd rather have Arch upright. And then, listen, you're going to have to get creative, more creative. Like we saw that the wide receiver pass, you're going to have to do some things like that. He's not a super creative play caller when it comes to that, or gimmicky, because that's more gimmicky. But you're going to have to do stuff like that. If they do three of those things, I think this team can win and go 9-3. I really believe that. Is he going to do that? I don't know because I've never seen him. One, he's never had to do it. Number two, I don't know if he is because he's never had to do it. Like it's something when your back is against the wall. Like if we roll out what we did, that exact same game plan versus Florida, if you guys thought what happened to Arch Manning in that game was bad, Oklahoma's front seven is way better than Florida's. Oklahoma's front seven is probably the best in the country. So he is going to get, I don't know, 10 sacks is probably what would happen. And we'd be lucky to score 10 points in the game. Like you're going to have to change up the philosophy of this offense.
Yeah, and we've seen him do a little bit of that already this year, rolling in some of those QB runs that get Arch going a bit. So like he's shown that he's willing to do some of it, but it's going to be a pretty big undertaking to do some of that. And it's hard to do that mid-season. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays itself out. But if you are touted as an offensive genius, one of the best offensive minds in the country, and you can't tailor an offense to a quarterback who most recruiting services agreed was a generational type talent, if you can't get that kid, one, comfortable in his position, and two, tailored to his specific skill set, then like I can't give you your flowers, because that to me is inexcusable. That to me is part and parcel of what makes a good offensive coach, is being able to say, okay, this is what this kid is good at. Here we're going to make him do those things, right? Because I honestly think that's part of what Arch's struggles were early in the season, was that he wasn't confident with the things that Steve Sarkisian was asking him to do. I think Sark was expecting the player to mold to the offense rather than the other direction. And that's just not something that you can do. We've never seen success with that. We've never seen a player really find a ton of success doing that. Again, I think back to Jeff Fisher trying to change Vince Young in the pros and absolutely ruined the kid, right? Like that to me is it's that same kind of thing. And I'm not saying it's that bad, but like when you try to change a quarterback and make him go against what he's good at, it generally doesn't work.
No, and listen, people are going to clown on Bill Belichick because what you see now. But I've seen that guy in the NFL where 1 week they throw for 400 yards. Next week he's like, guess what? This team's really bad against the run. I'm literally going to run it down their throat. I still remember the Jonathan Gray game versus the Indianapolis Colts where they said, you know what? We're going to run it with this no-name running back 25 times, 30 times because the Colts can't stop. And that guy went for 200-plus yards, multiple touchdowns, and then they cut him 2 weeks because he was late. And guess what? The team didn't miss a beat because that's what they did. They literally would scheme for the team they're playing and what the talent they have around on their team. And that's what Sark's going to have to do. I agree. If everything was perfect, I agree with taking bombs because Arch throws a beautiful deep ball and we have the weapons. Clearly, they were behind Florida all day. Doesn't matter because you have 1.5 seconds to do that and it's not going to work. So change the game plan. If you want to win, change the game plan. It's going to be interesting how he does that. I agree too. We only saw 2 quarterback design runs versus Florida. That number has to be 10. It has to be 10. You have to get him out there, QB power, QB counter, help the running backs out, take some of the stress off them in the running game, and put a little bit on Arch Manning. And also, too, guys, like, I think the power and gap scheme stuff doesn't work. Like, we're going to have to go back to what we saw last year, which is outside zone. I think that works a little bit better, and we haven't really seen that this year for whatever reason, and he's, like, completely abandoned it. So We just got to do stuff that works for the personnel we have. That is the number one thing. That is what every coach in America should do. I know it sucks not to run your scheme, but guess what? Winning or losing sucks way more than not being able to run your scheme.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what feels better than running your scheme is winning 10 games, winning 11 games, going to a playoff. That feels a lot better than being able to say you did it your way. That's exactly where I'm at, Matthew. It is frustrating to say the least.
So let's give our record predictions real quick for the rest of the year. I'm going to stick to 8-4. I think this team has a lot of talent still, and I do believe. Listen, Florida has a really good defensive line. And I don't think you're going to see many on the rest of the schedule that are as good as that. Like I said, I think Georgia and Oklahoma are. Texas A&M is still a maybe for me. Their defensive line isn't as good as it was last year. But other than those three teams, like, no offense to Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt does not have the defensive line or offensive line that those teams do. Same with Kentucky. Mississippi State doesn't. It's all about the line of scrimmage here. That's our weakness. So if you can push us around, you can definitely beat us. No doubt about that. I don't think there's a lot of teams left on the schedule that can do that, though.
Yeah, I like you. I think you picked out the ones. Oklahoma scares me the most of them just because of what they have on the defensive line. I think back to what they did to Auburn in that unit, and I was like, that's the blueprint for how to beat Texas in Dallas. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. I think A&M is a school that does a lot, and they're going to kind of pick you apart with their speed. And I don't know if Texas has the speed in the secondary to keep up with that pair of receivers they have. So that's something that concerns me in Georgia. So I think 8-4 probably is my optimistic thing, but I wouldn't be shocked if Texas turns a 7-5 in this year.
Yeah, no, I think honestly, if it like completely bottoms out, 6-6 like the lowest I could see this thing go, but I mean that would be disastrous at that point. So it is what it is. That's our season outlook for right now. Hopefully it turns around. We'll jump right into this. So again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. But let's jump into Oklahoma Red River. When I saw this line, I honestly wasn't shocked. But Texas is favored in this football game by 2.5 points. It was opened at 3.5 or 4. It's fallen down to 2.5 points. Oklahoma obviously undefeated on the year, coming off a big win versus Kent State. Michael Hawkins did play in that football game, obviously for the injured John Mateer. Had a 50, like he has 57% completion percentage on the year. He is a better player than he was last year. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But honestly, I was not impressed from what I saw. I don't think he's that good, and that's why this line is the way it is.
Yeah, and Corey said it in the chat, but I've had my tinfoil hat on for 3 weeks now. I am going to believe that John Mateer won't play in this game when John Mateer is in street clothes on Saturday. Like there's just something in my gut, in my spirit, and Corey and I are in one accord there. Like, and there's something deep down in me that like it just feels fishy, right? It feels weird. Like, and I'm not saying he didn't have surgery. I'm not saying, but like the way Oklahoma timed it. It's a 3-ish week recovery. This is just shy of 3 weeks. Like John Mateer is the type of player that if he's 80%, he's going to go in this game. If he's 75%, he's going to go in this game. And that makes Oklahoma a much bigger threat because he's kind of the whole offense in a lot of ways because they don't really have a running game to speak of. And he's obviously their quarterback. And so he makes the passing game go. And so like, that to me is the biggest question mark is I still, like I said, I will believe John Mateer's not going when John Mateer doesn't go on Saturday. Until that point, there's nothing you can say to convince me that Michael Hawkins is going to be the quarterback. And Hawkins, like you said, is a better quarterback than he was a year ago. He's not John Mateer, but he also, he's more limited as a passer than Mateer is. And that favors Texas in a lot of ways. And again, I think the big matchup to me in this is what does Texas's offensive line do against Oklahoma's defensive line? That is a unit. Brent Venables has them going and moving, and they're really doing an incredible job on that side of the ball. So, like, what will they do? Like, if it is Hawkins, this might be like a 6-3 ball game. If you like defense, show up for this one, right? But like that to me is the big question. Is like, can Steve Sarkisian, Kyle Flood, and that offensive coaching staff figure something out? Because David Stone, R. Mason Thomas, they're going to have a field day if the same offensive strategy and offensive line shows up on Saturday in the Cotton Bowl that did in the Swamp.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. I think it comes down to which defensive line pushes the other offensive line around the most because we're capable of doing that versus offense. Their offensive line is not good, guys. They're not as bad as our offensive line, but they are not good. And they, like you said, they don't have a running game. Up until last week, John Mateer was their leading rusher. Torrey Blaylock now is their leading rusher, but that's because he put up yards versus Kent State. They can't run the football. Jay Nott's been a complete bust for them, and that's why I think the line is the way it is. Like, I have a weird feeling about this game. That's all I'm going to say. I think everyone is counting Texas out. That's all I've seen online is, they're going to kill them. Da, da, da. I've seen Oklahoma fans in our comment section. We're going to win by 14 to 21 points. Da, da. I'm like, okay, you believe that. I don't think these teams won. Before the season started, Texas was favored like 9.5 points. And you lost your starting quarterback, who is a very good player, to Michael Hawkins. That's a pretty big drop off, and you can't run the football. So we'll see about that. But overall, I mean, they're phenomenal defensively, guys. They're second in points per game. They're second in yards allowed. They're first in yards per rush. Second and third down defense. Red zone, they're 54, so that's like the one weakness. But guess what? We're bad in the red zone, so I don't think that really matters anyways. 5.4 yards per pass, 2.0 yards per rush, second. So just a really, really good defense. You're able to hit explosive runs versus them. That's like the one thing that I think Texas could go for 0 yards on a lot of these carries, but all it's going to take is one, because we kind of saw that versus Michigan. They shift their front a lot right before the snap. So if they get out of position right when the snap happens and you hit that gap, you can take it. Like, it will be there. Now, are we going to be patient enough? Are we going to run the ball 20 times and 18 of them are just god-awful 1, maybe 2 yard carries, and then all it takes is the 1 or 2 for 50 to 60 yards that can blow the game completely open? That's kind of what we saw last year with Texas. Trey Wisner took a couple big runs and kind of blew the lead open. So I think that's a possibility. I also think if you do max protect, their secondary is the weakness on this team. I 100% believe Ryan Wingo, Emmett Mosley, and if Parker Livingston plays, they can get behind there and get big plays. Will we have time? That is a completely different discussion. I don't know, but it is there if we do have time.
Yeah, and you mentioned the explosiveness. Oklahoma has been known, they haven't given up a ton of points, but they've given up a lot of explosive plays there. You look at college football data is where I go for some of this stuff, and like they're giving up on every successful passing play, they're giving up 1.5 points, and every successful running play, they're giving up 1.3 points. So like they have a penchant to give up explosive plays in those areas, but they kind of clamp it down later. They haven't given up a ton of points, but again, I don't know what good offenses they've played. So that's also something that's in the back of my mind. Have they played a good offense? Now, is Texas a good offense? I don't think so, but Michigan probably isn't a good offense or wasn't a good offense when they played them. Auburn's offensive line is not good, and they have 3 cupcakes. So like, I don't know. This is not me doubting their defensive line or throwing shade. I started this conversation with saying they've got one of the best defensive lines in the country. R. Mason Thomas is the truth. David Stone is so good. Like, those guys are going to be NFL guys at the end of the year. Like, hear me saying that, but I just don't know. Like, again, Texas hasn't shown up against anybody worthwhile either this year. So like, that's the matchup I'm watching the most. The Red River game usually comes down to running the ball and turnovers. Who runs the ball better? Who turns the ball over fewer times? It's like, Texas Arch has had a penchant to throw the ball into peril. So is John Mateer, though. So if John Mateer plays, that's something to watch. Michael Hawkins, not as much of a polished passer, something to watch. So whoever runs the ball better usually wins. Whoever turns the ball over fewer times. Those are the 2 stats I always watch in Red River. And both of these teams have kind of yellow flags on both of those things.
And I believe Texas is really good with explosive plays. We don't allow very many explosive plays on defense. No. And that's one thing, like, if it does come down to explosive plays, I think we'll hit 1 or 2. I don't know if they will. And can they go on 10, 12, 13, 9, 14 play drives versus this defense with no running game? Like, if it's Michael Hawkins, is he going to be able to complete 7, 8 passes in a row to get them down the field multiple times in the game? Because I think they're going to have to score probably for at least 17 points to win this football game, in my opinion. I think 17 is kind of the number I'm looking at. So I don't think they can do that. And then if Mateer runs, Texas, you don't have to get the ball out. I want you hitting his hand. For God's sakes, hit his hand. You know he had surgery. Go in there, even if you don't get the ball, I want you to lay him out, because when someone coming back from an injury like that, you got to make them pay a little bit. I mean, my God, I watched Arch Manning get destroyed last week versus Florida. Can we do something half that versus John Mateer? By the way, versus a worse offensive line. Like, again, Oklahoma's offensive line is not very good. Florida's offensive line is. So, again, Texas edge group, if you are who I thought you were before the season, I need 4 to 5 sacks in this game. I need 4 to 5 sacks in this game. This isn't a great offensive line you're going against. Out of the 3 big games we play this year, this is the worst offensive line we will have played. So go eat. Michael Fasusi didn't choose Texas. Remind him that he should have chose Texas by destroying him when we do play them. So overall, does this Oklahoma team scare me more than last year? Yeah, they have more playmakers on the outside. Deion Burks is healthy. Good wide receiver. Jaron Kanek, who was a linebacker, going to be an NFL tight end. Like, he's a really solid player. Isaiah Satania, brother doing really well with the Lions, good football player, but they don't have anyone like, damn, that guy really scares me. And I will say this, Ryan Wingo, I watched Cam Coleman moss these guys down the field the whole time at Auburn. They could not cover that dude. You're somewhere in that ballpark rankings-wise. Go up and win a couple of those 50-50 balls. I need 1 or 2 50-50 balls this game from you.
Yeah, and I think those are the names that you called out. Like, and I'll say like one of Satania's 3 touchdowns this year is on a play that shouldn't have counted. So we'll put that in our back pocket and keep that there. But like, this is going to be a very interesting. I don't know what to say any year in Red River. And like, this is the most, I don't know what to say Red River year I've had in a very long time. Like I just still don't know what Oklahoma is. The material questions, their inability to run the ball or field a legitimate running back, but their defense is one of the best in the country. Like their defensive line is one of the best in the country. They are, I think, number 2 in the country in opponent adjusted defensive efficiency. Like they are an elite unit, but they've also played Kent State and they played Temple and they played terrible teams. Michigan and Auburn are the 2 best teams they played. Auburn put up 17 points, had a shot to win the game. Michigan was still trying to figure out who it was in that game. So that, leave that as another conversation. But like, this is going to be, I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I think that is going to be whichever defense shows up the best is going to win this game. Based on what we saw against Florida, I don't feel great about Texas, but you're not as bad as you are on your worst day. So that's kind of something I have in the back pocket.
What does Texas defensive line do to their offensive line? Can we not only get pressure, but hit some sacks as well? Yeah, this is the thing. Like, if Texas doesn't get 4 to 5 sacks, I'm just out on this headroom. Like, they've just been a complete bust. Because, again, this Oklahoma offensive line is not good. They can't run the football. So you should be able to make them one-dimensional and tee off on their tackles. So hopefully that's the case. Corey says, can we please play with some desire? I think we do. Okay, so I agree with that to an extent. Do we quit? Do we play with desire? Yeah, but early on we don't. Like, we have not come out in any game this year and been like, rah, rah, let's go. We hit someone in the mouth. We've done that versus nobody. We honestly haven't really done that in the Sark era other than at the Alabama game down in Tuscaloosa. And the first Alabama game. So versus Alabama, we come out with desire and ready to play football. Everyone else, it takes us about a quarter and a half. And that's what we see also in Red River. The team that comes out early and punches the other one in the mouth usually wins the football game. We saw that a couple years ago with Oklahoma when they came out, picked off Quinn Ewers early, and then he went like 21 of 21 after that quarter. And we still lost the football game because they came out, punches in the mouth early, got up by multiple touchdowns. If we're able to do that in this game, we can win the football game.
Yeah, and again, part of why Red River is always so weird is because like there is that emotional wave that starts early, and you have to kind of ride the crests and the valleys of it. So like, I never know what to make of this game. It's always throw the records out, throw the stats out. None of it really matters. And this year, I think more so than anything else, it's just none of it makes sense. The things that jump off the page to me: Oklahoma's inability to run the ball, Texas's inability to run the ball. Both teams have turned the ball over a few times. Like, that's usually what the difference is in Red River. So which team can clean those things up going into this game? That's my differentiator.
Okay, let's get to predictions. Gerald, I'll let you start out with this one. What are you going to do?
I predict I'm going to be very annoyed Saturday afternoon. No, I don't know. I think this is going to be in my head. Like, I want to, my heart wants to pick Texas. My head has been hurt too many times for me to pick Texas, I think. So like, if I have to put something on this game, one, I wouldn't bet this game with your money, Matthew. I just wouldn't do it. But I think I'm going to be stupid and say, I think 17-14 Texas. I don't know why. That's where my gut's telling me to go. And I've got a sizable gut. So we'll go with that.
I got a weird feeling. I'm taking Texas as well. 16-14. I got a weird score. I think Mason Shipley hits a walk-off game-winning field goal, 42 yards. That's what I'm going with. I have yet to see him. That's been my question. Can he do it? I have a weird feeling he's getting thrown in this game in a big moment. I think he's going to come through. So I'm going 16-14.
Would not be the first time that a Texas kicker
no, it would not
do that.
Can KJ Lacey beat OU if he has to? KJ Lacey, no, absolutely. He's not even the backup, so no. It'd be Matthew Caldwell. That's the thing, too. I've seen some very clownish takes of, hey, he came in and ripped a pass. That was one pass. I don't care what you do in one pass. Go out there and run 40 passes, get it hit in your chops, and let me know what happens on that. But he would be an upgrade for some teams. Like, I'm going to be honest. If he went to Auburn instead, he'd be better than Jackson Arnold because Jackson Arnold stinks.
Yeah, there's a lot of places where I think KJ Lacey can be the starter for sure.
That does it for the Oklahoma preview. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Now, let's talk about this, Gerald. We always do it. 3 games a week that we're going to choose. So far on the year, you are 3-6. I am 7-2. You got to catch up. You got to catch up. Got to push me.
I'm trying. This is why I don't bet. I'm terrible. I do not wager because I'm freaking terrible.
Well, this is the funny thing. I barely put any preparation in this. Like, I just say, okay, I think this team's going to win, and I'm 7-2. But the games I do bet, I do bad in because I overthink. I'm like, oh, well, this could happen. Well, this could happen. So I'm bad at that. So that's me. I'm a chronic overthinker. So we'll go with Michigan versus USC. USC is favored by 2.5 points. Very interesting because USC obviously at home, but Michigan ranked, USC unranked. I was high on USC coming to the year. We've seen this happen, time zone difference where a team has to travel West Coast, kind of provides something for the team at home. I'm going to take USC in this game. I think they're going to win the game. I'm going to take them I think they're going to win like 27-20, 27-17. I think they're going to beat Michigan on the West Coast in LA.
You said this is USC favored by 2.5?
Favored by 2.5, yeah.
I think I'll go USC as well. I think, going the time zone thing is real. The time zone thing is, if USC was going the other way, I would mash all the money on Michigan, but I think USC will get this one.
Yeah, because I think that's a 7:30 game. So Michigan times, that game's going to kick off at 11 p.m. Eastern time, body clock time. You're not used to playing football at midnight. That's not coaches don't say, hey, we're going to have practice at midnight, guys. So it's a real thing, and I 100% agree with you. If they were going East Coast, and this was like, especially if it was like a noon game, you're not used to playing football at 9 a.m. in the morning either. So I'm going to take USC. We're both on USC. One that's very interesting, and if Texas were to beat Florida, I don't think ESPN would be going to this game, but this line is dropped. It was 10. Indiana versus Oregon. Oregon favored by 7 points. Indiana is much more for real than they were last year. That coupled with the fact that every other team to me is less than they were last year. I think Indiana does have a shot here, but I'm going to take Oregon to win. I think they win this game like 30-20. I think Indiana is a legit top 12 team. I think they should definitely be in the college football playoff this year, but I'm going to take Oregon to cover the spread.
Yeah, it's hard for me to go against Oregon just because they, like, when I talk about there being maybe 2 good teams this year, they're one of those 2 good teams. I really think Oregon is probably a legit team this year. And so it's hard for me, and I'm not going to gain any ground with you going in the same direction that you are, but it's just hard for, like, if I talk about good teams, like, I think Oregon has it where they need. I think their lines are solid. They've got good skill players. They've got a quarterback that's not going to lose them games. Like, they've got where you need to win these games. Indiana is good, but Indiana doesn't have Phil Knight NIL type players on their roster. And when push comes to shove, it's a Jimmy's and Joe's games. And I think that Oregon has the Jimmy's and Joe's.
No, I agree. And that's the thing, like, it's going to be a battle of first-round pick quarterbacks, like Dante Moore versus Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza was getting a lot of love at the beginning of the year. He's played up to it. I liked him at Cal. Dante Moore, I'm going to be honest, completely wrong on him. Didn't like him at UCLA, came into Oregon, has played very well. I still think there's, we'll have to see when he's under pressure because Penn State really didn't touch him. So we'll have to see when that happens. But, I mean, there may not be a team that's able to do that. So I'm going to take Oregon to win this game by like 10. Next up, can Florida continue the trend? Can they beat another team from Texas, this time at Aggieland, getting 7.5 points? I think A&M, again, is a solid top 15 team. But if Florida plays like they did versus us, they have a real shot to win this football game. There's a reason why I thought this team could win 8 or 9 football games, because they are supremely, supremely talented. It's the guy on the sideline that I don't trust. I'm going to take Florida to cover this game. I do think they're back on track a little bit. I think Dallas Wilson is just a complete difference maker, and I don't think the Aggies have anyone at corner that can cover him either. I think that was an issue for Texas. I don't think they have great cornerbacks. Now, I do think A&M is going to be able to throw it a little bit with their offensive line and their wide receivers, but I will take Florida to stay in this game and cover that 7.5 point spread.
Yeah, I think I've got to go A&M here. It hurts me to say that, but I think what I've seen from A&M, it just feels like all of the A&M luck has the bad luck has ran out, right? I think like this just feels like this is the year where it's finally going to happen for them. And I hate that it's going to be that year. Like if it was your typical A&M year, that Notre Dame, like that the missed extra point and all that, like all the things that we normally expect to happen to A&M haven't happened this year. Now, they could all happen in this game against Florida and things go sideways. But I just think like Mike Elko is too solid of a coach to let that happen. I think they really have gotten a guy who knows how to build a program. He's like the anti-Jimbo Fisher, right? It's like infrastructure, like winning things in the right ways. Their offensive line is not great, but it's good. Their defensive line is good. I think probably they've got some really good talent there as well. The secondary definitely is susceptible. And I think that Florida, if you get good DJ Lagway, they're going to press them. But ultimately, I have to go A&M in this one, especially because it's in College Station. Like it is, like that environment does mean something. So I think I'm going to go A&M in this one.
No, I think that's completely fair. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. And also give each of us a follow. That is Gerald's X or Blue Sky, as well as his Longhorn Pod, which is on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you can find your podcast, just like the Voice of College Football. This is my X right there, so please give me a follow. And again, guys, join us every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You got Brandon and Josh tomorrow night, so check out what they have to say. Brandon's going to be interesting because he did not get to vent with us after the game. I'm interested to see what he thinks about the Florida game and what Texas's season looks like from here on out. Again, guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and we will be here no matter what. OU blows us out in Red River. We're going to be right here, so please check us out after the game. Let's see, games at 3:30. We're going to be here about 7:15 Eastern Time, 7:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Central Time. So please be here. Again, guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.